Mrs. Herman Smith, Mr. Johnson.
How do you do, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I remember you, Mrs. Smith. It was my unpleasant duty to prosecute your husband. Come over here and sit down.
As I told you, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Smith is firmly convinced that her husband is innocent. Now, she believes, and to a degree I concur, that there are certain aspects of this case which, if investigated and re-examined, might prove her husband innocent.
I see.
And she hopes that you will authorize immediately a re-examination of the evidence that convicted him.
Will you tell us why, Mrs. Smith?
Our story continues after this message.
Recognize these? They belong to your youngsters. Some of the things that keep them on the go from dawn to dusk. No wonder so many mothers serve their families Nabisco wheat honeys for breakfast. Every bite honey-flavored, every serving energy-packed. There's no other cereal like Nabisco wheat honeys. Golden puffs of 100% durum wheat enriched with the flavor, the goodness, the wonderful energy of honey. Even if you drench them with milk, they stay crisp, crunchy, delicious. You don't need any more sugar on this cereal. Nabisco wheat honeys satisfy that hankering for sweets without further sweetening. Wonderful, right from the package. They make a honey of a snack. And for a change, try Nabisco rice honeys. Honey-flavored pops of unpolished rice with all its natural goodness and wholesome nourishment. For delicious taste and quick energy, look for the cereals with a honey of a name. Nabisco wheat honeys, Nabisco rice honeys.
That was Valentine's Day, and you see, Manny he brought me a box of candy as a present.
Mrs. Smith, your husband has a police record. He's been out of jail only a year or so, and he has had a previous conviction.
That's right. But that happened when he was very young. That was before we got married. Well, he's gone straight since then until he stole some money to save Vi's life. Well, he had a reason for doing that, but he didn't have any reason for doing this.
Oh, a leopard does not change his spots.
We are not talking about a wild animal, Mr. Johnson. We are talking about an innocent man, a good man.
Who was identified by an eyewitness.
Johnson, I believe Mrs. Smith. Sergeant Taylor, who was the arresting officer, has been dismissed from the force for accepting a bribe. Now, it's only logical to assume that for some reason, probably another bribe, he framed her husband.
That's a mere assumption.
He was the investigating officer in the case. Sit down for a moment. Look, Johnson. Taylor knew at the time of the arrest that Smith had an airtight alibi. He also knew that the only way he could break that alibi was to get somebody to testify that they had seen Smith at the scene of the crime. Then he'd have an open and shut case.
Well, Chief, I'm deeply moved. Certainly by your sincerity, Mrs. Smith, and the loss of your husband. Now, if there was any evidence whatsoever of a miscarriage of justice, I would be the first to rectify it. But there is no such evidence. As for this theory of yours about some dishonest police officer being criminally involved, I don't have to remind you, do I, that you're the chief of police, or the acting chief? As such, a crooked cop is your responsibility and not mine.
As a miscarriage of justice is yours.
The case is closed, Mrs.
You cannot do this, Mr. Johnson. You cannot close the case on an innocent man.
The district attorney's mind is closed, Mrs. Smith. It's useless to argue any further with him. Let's go.
Tune in again tomorrow for The Edge of Night, created by Irving Bendy.